So now we are going to create the login page. Right, so if we look over here, we did everything that we need to do in our register.php page. We set up the form, we did the back end, and we created the table, and we've entered some data down here, some users records down over here in the table users. So everything is working fine. Now if we go ahead to the login page and we start, and if we look down here at the auth folder, we're gonna find login.php. We can go ahead and like remove all of this down over here from this div down here, the div with the class container, and we can go ahead and just include the header right away. So include or require. I'm gonna go ahead and do this too down here because we are going to go a step back to the root folder, because we are in the auth folder. We're gonna go back and go to the main root of the project and go ahead and go to the includes down over here slash header.php, and we are going to end this statement, and we can go ahead and just copy all of this, and we can go down here at this div right over here and remove all of this, just like what we did in the register page, right? And we can go ahead and just paste this in. All right, I can go ahead and do for save. If we now go ahead to the login page, all right, so we're in the main folder and in the auth folder and login.php. Make sure that everything is correct and click. You can see that down here it's working fine. Here is the form, and here is the footer, and here is the header and everything. So it's working perfectly. If we go ahead right over here, just we need to write our backend. I'm gonna close this. All right, so basically the first thing that we need to do is like what we did in the register page down here. We're going to check for the submit, okay, for the submit action. And the second thing is what we are going to like take the data from the input, right? And the third thing that we need to do is to go ahead and write our query. The fourth thing that we need to do is to go ahead and fetch, execute first, and then fetch. This is like a summary of what we're going to be doing. And the fifth thing is to go ahead and do our row count. And basically the row count function will return the number of affected rows for the statement that we are going to be providing. All right, it will return some kind of number, and we will see how it's working just in a minute. All right, and after that we are going to do our password verify function. All right, and after that we will like redirect the user to the index page maybe. And in the next video we'll do like the sessions and everything. All right, so this is basically our map to the login page. So if we can go ahead and just let me explain the form first. So basically down here we have the form, the post with the post method. We have the action down here. It's going to be the login.php because this is where our backend is, so it will snap this when we process this form. And we have two inputs down here. We have the input of type email and the name email. Make sure that everything is written in the right way, all right, because it will not work, especially this name down here. This should be email and this should be password, so this form will be working, all right. And we have a button down here, type submit and the name submit, all right. And we have this div down over here with this paragraph, and you remember it will just show like a little line down here. If we actually don't have an account, we can click on this link and it will redirect us to the register page, so we can create a new account, or we can create an account. Anyways, if we go over here, and now we need to check for the submit on this button down here, the submit button. So we're gonna go if is set post on the submit. Now we need to do another if down here, because we need to check if the inputs are empty or not when the user clicks on the submit button. Because of course, if they are empty, we need to tell them, hey, enter some data so we can process it, just like what we did in the register.php right over here. So we can go. There is also like all kinds of like validation that you can do, but we are gonna go with the simplest thing because I don't want this to be very complicated and I don't want this video to go very long. All right, so if we go post email equals nothing, or post password equals nothing, we're going to like show some kind of text, maybe one input or more are empty. Okay, if we have something in the input, now we can go ahead and do what we have down here. Now we're going to take our data, just like what we did with a post method, email. Oh, we actually forgot the variable. We can copy this one more time, password. All right, and now we can go ahead and do our query, and the query is going to be, we're going to name like a variable, and we're going to assign it to our query. We need actually the connection, so we can go ahead and do our connection to the database, and we are going to use the query method. We're going to do a select all from users where email equals the email that we are getting down here. So first of all, we need to select everything from the row that contains this email that the user entered. All right, so we can use this data after that and check for the password, just like I'm going to show you right now. But first of all, we need to include the config file. All right, so we can actually use the connection. So if we can go ahead, config, and the file is config.php. All right, so after that, if you know anything about MySQL, this should be like the simplest query that you can ever do. All right, with like where. Right, so this should be kids things to you if you know MySQL and video. All right, so after that, after writing our query, we are going to execute and fetch it. Login, execute it, and after that we are going to fetch it in a row variable. All right, so login, fetch PDO, fetch and ESSOC. This is gonna be fetched like as an associative array. This is like a simple word for associative. So after the fetch down here, we are gonna go ahead and do our row count. All right, so let's first like echo out the row count for this statement. Let's say echo login row count. Going to close this and see. Let's say what it's going to give us. All right, so if we go down over here and if we take this email, let's copy it so we can actually log in. Let's click login. It's actually giving us 1. So why did it give us 1? Basically what happened down here, that the row count function allows us to like it throws out some certain number based on the affected rows down here, and the only affected row is and there is only one row that's affected by this statement. Of course we are checking for one user with one email, so it will only display the number 1. But of course if we're like maybe in some other example, if we're creating like 5 records at a time, and if we did this row count function, it will display the number 5. All right, so this is what happened because we got the email right. It actually affected one row down over here. So this is basically how it works. And now let's go ahead and choose like maybe we will go for an email that is not in our database, right? Maybe let's say not found at gmail.com. so this actually is not here in the database. Okay, and let's copy it and click login. Part of should be contain the sample. All right, so as you can see that down here it's giving us 0 because there is no email in the database that I just entered. There is no such a thing, so it doesn't affect any rows at our database or in the query down here. So this is why it throws out a 0. All right, so I hope this makes sense. If we can go ahead now and go F, and I'll show you why are we using it. So if we go the log in of this the row count of this login is greater than 0, we're gonna go ahead down here and check for something. So basically, as we're saying down here, we're saying that if the user entered a valid email that we have in our database, we are going to go for the next step, which is like verifying our password. We are going now to check for the password because we have this email, and that only makes sense. All right, so now we are going to go ahead for the password verify. Okay, so if we go ahead, if password verify, down here, and I will show you what this means. So now if you can see that right down here, it shows us the string password and the string hash, which are the two parameters that this method down here takes. So we are going to grab our password that the user entered and the hashed password down over here, and this is why we fetch it in the first place, just to get out the password from the query. All right, we are gonna go row on my password, and if this like true, if the password that the user entered matches this password, we are gonna go ahead and echo out something, maybe logged in. So focus, because this message right down here, I've never seen anybody like explain it or get it right. Okay, because this like too many people don't understand it very well. Okay, maybe I don't even understand it that well, but I will try and explain it. So basically what happens when the user enters his password, it enters a password, of course, like a raw password, just like the email, just like everything else. What this function does, it takes up this data down here that the user entered, and it makes a hash for it, just like the password hash that we used in the last video. And after it makes that hash, it matches this hash to the one that's already in the database that we got from here. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So if those two are matched and they are the same, we are going to echo out something, and we are going to like let the user in the index or in the home page. Right, so let me explain everything from the beginning. Of course, like in this one down here, we're not gonna do this. Okay, we're not gonna like stop right down here. This is just a test. We are gonna go for the session, and we are going to like get the user to, or redirect the user to the index page. All right, so let me like explain everything from the start. If the user clicks on submit, if we got over here and it doesn't have anything in the inputs, we will display this message. If it has, we will grab the email, and we will grab like the raw password. All right, and we will do the query down here. The query will select everything, okay, from the raw that has this password over here, that the password that the user already entered. All right, now we are going to execute, and we are going to fetch. Okay, and this fetch is going to work down here. We're going to grab the password from it. All right, now we are going to like go ahead and go for the row count down here, and the row count will allow us to, hey, like if this statement if this statement like throws a number that's bigger than 0 and it should throw 1, we are gonna go ahead for the next step, which is the password verify. If the email is right, all what we're saying down here, if the email is right, we're gonna go ahead and check for the password, and the password verify gets the raw data or the password that the user entered, the unhashed password, and it creates a hash for it. All right, and match this hash to the one that we already have in the database that's associated with this email down here. All right, so I hope guys, I hope this makes sense. I know it's kind of complicated. We can use some kind of other function rather than password hash down here, but password hash, I like it. It's very practical and sophisticated. It's kind of complicated, but I think, in my opinion, it's the best. All right, so password verify gets the password that the user entered, and it creates a hash for it. Okay, and it matches this hash to the one that's already in the database, so we can log the user in. And I'm sorry I said this a couple of times, but it's kind of complicated, so this is what I should do, right? So if I saved now, if I go ahead, actually let's make the user go to the home page, header, location, index.php. Right, so I can go ahead and change this. PHP. All right, so if we save, now if we're gonna go ahead and refresh, now everything is working fine. Let's go ahead and grab some email that has a hash. All right, so if we grab this one, and then email and the password are the same. If we click login, index.php, yeah, it's actually not right over here in the auth. So let's, okay, we don't need to complicate this a little more, so we need to comment this, and let's say we're going to echo out something, echo out logged in, because I know this is taking too long. Let's refresh this, and let's go over here and do it one more. Click login. You can see that down here it's giving us logged, and so everything is working fine, and we're not gonna stop over here. We're gonna do some sessions, but not in this video because it's getting already too long. Right, so yeah, this is basically it for this video, and yeah, thanks for watching.